Mukavaa iltapäivää, arvon ystävät, paikalla olijat, sekä täällä elävänä paikalla olijat, että sitten siellä virtuaalisesti paikalla olevat. Ja kaikki muutkin, jotka jollain astraalitasolla ovat läsnä tässä tilassa, niin hei vain.
Ollaan eilisen ja tämän päivän aikana puhuttu paljon sitä, että mitä jokainen meistä voisi tehdä, jotta me pystyttäisiin liikkumaan kohti kestävää kehitystä. On paljon erinäisiä tahoja, jotka toimii asioiden puolesta, jotta rakennetaan kestävää tulevaisuutta. Ja sitten on myös niitä yksilöitä, jotka toimii inspiroivasti niin, että muutkin voisit helpommin seurata. Ja mä oon ottanut tätä puheenvuoroa todella paljon, koska meille tulee kenialainen aktivisti Phyllis Omido ja Iiris Laisi, joka edustaa Elokapinaa, puhumaan, että miten he on pystynyt toimimaan kestävän kehityksen puolesta. Ja Phyllis Omido on todella esimerkillinen toimija, koska hän nousi aikoinaan metalli factorya vastaan, mutta iso toimijaa vastaan. Ja pelkästään se, että hän nousi vastaan, johti siihen, että tämä yritys lakkasi toimimasta. Ja puolestaan Elokapina, jotkut saattaa tietää, toimii Suomessa hyvin paljon kestävämmän kehityksen puolesta. Mutta niin kuin mä oon sanonut, te ette ole tänne tullut kuuntelemaan, niin päästetään puhujat vaan lavalle. So let's give a applause to the next speakers. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Iiris Laisi, and I belong to I'm part of the Extinction Rebellion movement in Finland, also known as Elokapina. That's a civil disobedience movement trying to persuade the governments all over the world to act justly on the ongoing climate crisis and ecological emergency. With me, I have Phyllis Omido from Kenya, a well-known award-winning activist, as you have successfully closed down a metal smelting plant near Mombasa. It's really an honor to have you here. I'm happy about it. And you've taken the case to the Kenyan court as you stopped the metal smelter. People around the world have found your work really empowering and recognizable. You've won the Goldman Environmental Prize in 2015, and you've also been selected as one of the most influential people of 2021.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Iris. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in Helsinki. I'm very humbled to be here to share our work. And even though we have had many challenges, we have had great partners in Finland that have enabled us to do the work that we have done so far. Any work that we do regarding the environment at this moment is very critical because our people in Africa are the ones that are bearing the greatest brunt of climate change, and therefore we do not have time to waste.
No, we don't. So how did your work start at the metal smelting plant?
Okay.
How did you start?
I studied business management in university, and my desire was to work within the corporate environment because that is where the money is. And I had worked in different industries for some time, and then I saw an ad, and I went for an interview and got a job. Unfortunately, almost a month into the job, I realized that we were working in a very toxic area. We were not given the information. And I also was questioning the licensing of the plant where I was working because it was too near to a human population. And there were 3,000 Kenyans from that neighborhood who were being exposed to chemicals because the chimney was not very standard, and they were smelting lead, which is a heavy metal. So it does not go up, it just comes back and lands in the environment. And this was landing in the environment in the whole community. And it was polluting the playground where the children were playing. It was polluting the water, the vegetation. And the first signs were that all the livestock that the community was keeping in their houses died because they were drinking from the water that was leaving the industry. And when the little chicken and the goats drank from that water, they died. And this, for me, was unacceptable.
Yeah.
And this is what started my work.
So how did you start mobilizing people? And
Yes,
what was the first step?
actually, my son also was exposed to lead poisoning.
Right.
So I stayed with him for a month in hospital. And when I left, I went into the community and I took 3 children and tested them for lead poisoning. All 3 of them tested positive for lead poisoning. I went back and took another 10 children, and all 10 of them tested positive for lead poisoning. So this began my journey of trying to convince government that something actually was wrong in this community and that they needed to act to protect the lives of the people and the environment. That is how I started. Yeah.
Yeah, you stood up against your own employer. I think that's really
Yes, it was
strong
really
move.
hard as a single
Yeah.
parent, but it's a journey that if I'm asked, I would do it over again. However, I'm very, I'm very excited to meet you and also to learn that there are activists in Finland,
Yeah.
because we assume that Finland is very privileged and no one can rise up or bring up issues of climate.
Yeah.
We are very proud of you, but I would like to know that what made you decide to be an activist?
what made me to decide to be an activist?
Yes.
There are a lot of reasons. Maybe I could ask, like, why wouldn't I be an activist? I live in a country which overconsumes the resources 4 times too much, and I can't just, if I didn't, let's take it this way, if I didn't participate in a movement like Elokapina, I think I would just accept it and be like a stand-byer, let it all happen. I couldn't do that, and I think this is a shared experience among all people who are taking action. We're also building a community, as you also, I think you've been doing it, mobilizing people to oppose this toxics going to the environment and making destruction. So I think building and belonging to a community is really important, and to stand up against it. I think we need to resist the existing system and build a new one. Like, it's a systemic change that we need to go to and confront the status quo. And yeah, those are the reasons why, some of the reasons why I'm putting my time and effort into this work. What about you? What does it mean to you?
It's quite inspiring for me to know that there are people also in Finland who are taking up especially the cause of climate change. Because even though we all share the planet, I know that a lot of citizens of the globe are ignorant to the actual effects of climate change. And therefore, just for us in Africa to know that there is a movement like Extinction Rebellion in Finland with the same ideals, that believe in the same thing, that are fighting for this cause together with us, it's very encouraging for us. Yeah.
Soon we can see some pictures. I don't know if they're already on the screen. Maybe we can take them now. But so yes, let's go to the images. If you want to speak on these a little.
Yes. So in 2016, on 2015, I won the Goldman Award. It's a very prestigious environmental award. And our greatest desire was to have our day in court, where we question the responsibility of both the state and the non-state actors who are responsible in poisoning our community. And therefore, we put up a case, and we recruited a legal team and signed a contract with them. And in 2016, we put our case in the Kenyan courts.
Right.
Kenya thankfully recognizes the right to a clean and healthy environment in the Constitution. So we were able to bring the court the case to the Land and Environment Court.
Yeah.
And in 2020, we won the case against 6 state agencies and 2 corporations.
Right.
And we were awarded a total award of, I think, $12 million by the courts. And for us, it was a big victory because the community really has gone through a lot. We have lost more than 50 adults and 300 children who died from very excessive lead poisoning. WHO defines lead poisoning at 5 micrograms per deciliter of lead in blood. The highest, for example, in Flint, Michigan, was around 35 micrograms. Our community had lead levels of as high as 420 micrograms per deciliter of lead. That is 800 times more than the definition of lead poisoning. Some of these people live in a very bad health conditions. Some of them are unable to do their day-to-day duties because of very high exposure to lead. And therefore, this, for us, was so critical for the community, but also as a precedent for our country, so that the way the duty bearers, the state agencies, handle their obligations towards the right to a clean and healthy environment could change.
So here you can see
that is
on the screens on the community that you were working
actually, you can see a baby. I'm holding a baby.
You are the one with the
yes, I'm
green
with
shirt.
the green T-shirt, and I'm holding a small baby. That is Sammy. Sammy, maybe I'll talk about Sammy a little bit. Sammy was a young boy who was born in Uhuru. He was healthy, and during his kindergarten, he was always top of his class. And he got exposed to lead poisoning, very high lead levels of above 40, and he started falling sick. But also the acid rain that was falling on the children's playground fell on Sammy for too long. As you can see, the chimneys there, and below is where the children are playing. And for many years, this fell. Remember, the smelter worked from 2009 up to 2014. And all this time, the acid was falling on the children. And unfortunately, in 2018, Sammy died, the boy that I'm holding there. He succumbed because his skin started falling off because the acid had completely destroyed his skin. His body could no longer hold his skin. So he died a very painful death because we were not even able to hold Sammy to comfort him. We could talk to him, but it was more painful if you went to hold him to comfort him. This is just one of the many children. We have had cases of women whose wombs were actually removed because of very high lead levels and continuous miscarriages in the community.
So there is no question, why wouldn't you be an activist opposing this? It's
exactly
terrible. Thank you for sharing these experiences. Now we could maybe see a video from Nurain Lapolon and discuss later about the issues, later the video issues and threats and challenges that we're facing, and how do we come over those. So please, I remember I need to, okay, the video is on. Let's see.
In certain contexts, environment activism is often intimidated because it opposes power, criticizes the perpetrators even when voicing injustice to the environment and community rights. Political leaders are often ignorant of the risk of the climate crisis and environment damage, while we are faced with a situation where the democratic space is increasingly being narrow. On the other hand, there are still many people who do not have the same understanding of environment conservation. In the last 3 years, JAPESDA has succeeded in educating coastal community to restore 68.5 hectares of mangrove area in the province of Gorontalo and Central Sulawesi. JAPESDA also encouraging several villages in Torsiaji Serumpun to become part of essential ecosystem area in mangrove management and influences stakeholders to maintain the status of the Tanjung Panjang Nature Research Area, which has high biodiversity. We were intimidated by law enforcement, even experienced the campaign against Japesda war. To overcome obstacles, Japesda utilized mass media and social media for clarification. In addition, we officially requesting law enforcement officer and policymaker to resolve problem in accordance with applicable legal regulation. In educating the community and all stakeholders for environment management. Continue to campaign on social media and mass media and encourage policies to strengthen environment management work from the village to the provincial level.
Yeah, it was a great video. There is a lot of success happening also, as with Nurain has, with her organization, Japesda, saved up to 70 hectares of the, what is this called? Restored forests, yes.
Yeah,
and they support coastal communities. Mm-hmm. So a lot of good work has been done, and you've successfully closed down a metal smelting plant. But how about then, how do you face challenges, and what kind of threats do you have, or obstacles on your way as you are resisting?
As Nurain has said, environmental activism includes challenging power. This is an aspect that I did not relate to when I began my work. I thought it was very easy. Something was wrong and it needed to be corrected, and I thought for me it's black and white. It's very easy. But to my shock, it was very difficult to even get one state agency to accept what I was saying. After a while, I came under threat. I was attacked in my home by gunmen who were sent to kill me. And I escaped very narrowly because of one of my neighbors who was coming home at that time. He found me at the gate, and there were two gunmen, one on this side, one on that side. I was holding my baby from church, and my son was screaming really hard, and I was very scared because I thought they were going to shoot him. So I begged them to allow at least my son to go inside the gate, and I promised them that I will stay out if they let my son go in. So one of them was very angry and hit me, but the other one said, no, it's a child, let the child go in. So I pushed my son in and closed the gate and stayed outside with them. And they hit me, and I fell to the ground, and I knew that they were going to kill me from what they were saying, because they said, why are you standing up against men? Are you a man? Mm-hmm. This society belongs to men. Why are you standing up to men? So from this, I understood that they were sent and I was going to be killed. Luckily, one of my neighbors just drove in at that time, and this man disappeared. And I ran away from my home that day, and I never went back up to today. I never even went to move my things. I ran to the nearby town and started my work there. I have learned over the years that this is not a situation that I only face, but all land and environment defenders across the globe. In 2015, I received the Goldman Award along Bata Caceres, and she became my friend. Very unfortunately, a few years later, she was shot dead in her home because of standing up to power and profit. This is the situation of many land and environment defenders in Kenya. Last year, 3 land and environment defenders were killed because of the work that they are doing. 2 were just shot dead while they were going to their homes, and 1 was hacked with a machete to death. And therefore, environmental activism is very risky. I'm very blessed to have partners like KIOS, the Finnish Foundation for Human Rights, and with their help, we've been mobilizing land and environment activists in Kenya so that they come together and form a community. And this is our 6th year, and we find that all the land and environment defenders in our network face the exact same challenges because what they are trying to do is stop some people maybe from making profit.
Yeah.
But the narrative that land and environment defenders are against economic growth and all that, it's wrong. And unfortunately, this is the narrative that goes around every time that a land and environment defender stands up to defend the environment. Yeah. It's very sad because the work that LEDs do is very critical to sustainability. And they are not asking for development not to happen, but they are asking that we do it in a way that respects the environment, nature, and most of all the people of this planet.
Yes. Yeah, you're really right. Like, not all climate activists face they're not challenges, they're threats, that they're like life-threatening things. Not everybody faces them the same way. Like in Finland, the situation is not as severe, although it is like the police or the far right is a different risk to different groups of people, and I'm really aware of it. What do you think, like, what could the governments do to protect these activists who are attacked and who are threatened? Can you think of?
I think it's a shared responsibility. We cannot leave all of it to government, even though government has the greatest responsibility to ensure that they are not criminalizing land and environment defenders. Because, like for myself, I have a criminal record. Because in 2012, I was arrested and arraigned in court and charged with inciting violence and illegal gathering. Because I said that there was lead poisoning in Uhuru. And even though the court acquitted me, the CID, the Criminal Investigation Department, has refused to remove that record. So if I go and search for my criminal record, it still comes up. This is the case of so many land and environment defenders. And therefore, government has a responsibility to understand that land and environment defenders are not criminalized, but the justice system is used to try and criminalize them to stop them from speaking up for the environment. This year, for example, we are hosting our annual Land and Environment Defenders Conference in Kenya, and we are bringing judges from the courts to attend the meeting, one day to attend the meeting, to interact with these land and environment defenders so that they understand that there's something that these people stand for, so that when they are arraigned in court, they can relate to the work and they can relate and they can understand where it's coming from, so that we don't end up criminalizing people who are doing very good work for the planet. We are also doing a lot of advocacy with the help of KIOS, with state agencies, so that they recognize the work of land and environment defenders. We are also trying to see how we can leverage on policy to ensure that policies are passed that can ensure that a safe environment for the land and environment defenders, that they do their work.
Yes.
But I know that you also face challenges here in Finland.
Yeah.
I have read about some of the arrests. Thankfully, Finland is still a very modern society, and therefore you don't face as much risk as we do. But I know even still at that level, it must be very stressful for members.
Moment, actually, I've been just discussing about this situation we have right now in Elokapina, for example. We are taking some cases to the court also, as people have refused to pay the fines. And that's like a topic right now, as it seems that our right in Finland also to protest, or at least when it comes to Elokapina, who is really taking it to the streets and trying to stop business as usual from happening, it seems that the police can do arbitrary things, like they can accuse an activist or someone who is openly supporting Elokapina, for example, by paying the fines. They're saying that this is a criminal action and we're accusing you of something, and the media takes this and they make a huge news about it. And I think this is a way to make it scary, or make activism seem like it's criminal, that it's not actually a responsibility that we should all perhaps carry, especially living here in Finland. We also have proof of the police sympathizing the far-right movement, which is really dangerous in Finland at the moment as it's getting bigger, like more and more people. I'm watching the clock, I'm sorry. But the far-right movement is really becoming a bigger threat all the time. And I think the police and all security officials in this country should take action against that and not against Elokapina, who is actually just taking the responsibility of the crisis, I see. So yeah, it's...
I agree with you very strongly. And I know that the work that you're doing is very critical, not just for Finland, but for the planet. Much as I said, much as Africa is bearing the greatest brunt, we all are global citizens, and the effects of the planet eventually will grind everything to a halt. So stopping traffic for a short period just to create awareness of what is going on should have support of the public and should have the support of the police. Because when you're fighting for the planet, you're not fighting for yourself only. Yeah. You're fighting for the future generations. You're fighting for the police. You're fighting for politicians.
Yes, and for
everyone,
freedom of speech and freedom of
so that
democracy.
they can all be safe in the planet and that we can have a sustainable life as members of this planet. So I'll just encourage you not to give up.
Thank you.
There are challenges, but as the challenges come, you will overcome. And I know that there are people in Finland whose conscience is at the right place, and they will stand and keep supporting Elokapina, the work that you're doing.
We have a few minutes left, and now as a last question, I want to ask you what kind of tips or advice would you give for people who are trying to organize themselves or trying to take action in the movements or still outside of them, but trying to find way?
I think my greatest advice would be do not disconnect from the people. Your greatest task is to make sure that the people are with you. If you take this and run with what you're trying to achieve and the public is left behind, it compromises you, it compromises your safety, it compromises everything. Our greatest shield during our work has been the people of Kenya. They stand with us, though not everyone will support you. You'll never get that. There are people who will criticize you and you cannot change their minds. But you need them to understand the work that you're doing and how critical it is, and for them to be with you. Once the people are with you, the politicians and the police will come on board eventually. So my advice to all land and environment activists globally, but those especially in Europe, is that with great privilege comes great responsibilities. As we are fighting in Africa, we expect that you keep fighting here also. And I know that future generations will be grateful for the sacrifices that we all have made for them. Because the planet was a beautiful place some years back. It is changing quick. And it's not something that the future generations deserve. I have a little girl, she's 3 years old, and I worry about her and her future. So we have to keep doing what we are doing.
Those are great words to end this discussion. Thank you very much, Phyllis Omido.
Thank you, Iiris.
It was
and
great.
So proud of you at the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
One more round of applause, please.
Ja tämäkin keskustelu, kuten kaikki muutkin keskustelut, jotka tällä lavalla täällä tiivistämöllä käydään, ovat nähtävissä ja kuultavissa tuolla maailmankylässä.fi nettiosoitteen kautta. Siellä YouTube-kanavalla seuraavat 2 viikkoa, muistaakseni.
Kyllä. Ja viimeisestä puheenvuorosta, mitä mulla ainakin jäi käteen, on se, että ihmisoikeuskysymykset, ympäristökysymykset ovat erilaisia jokaisessa maassa kulttuurillisista nyansseista ja historiasta riippuen. Ja on tärkeää meidän täällä Suomessa tiedostaa meidän omat etuoikeutemme. Meillä on ollut 2 päivää aikaa edes pohtia näitä asioita, mikä itse asiassa on hieno asia. mutta miten me sitten päädyttäisiin liikkumaan puheista tekoihin. Me eletään globaalissa maailmassa, missä meidän teot vaikuttaa ympäri maailman. Ja meidän tulisi käyttää näitä meidän etuoikeuksiamme, meidän valtaa niin, että me kannetaan oma vastuumme siinä, millaista maailmaa me luodaan huomiselle, tulevaisuudelle, jottei se taakka jäisi aina niille henkilöille, ketkä tulee jo heikommasta asemasta. Palataan pian. Kiitos.